This time on CrowdQuest, we are reviewing the Deck of Holding, monster stat block reference cards for D&D 5e 2024, currently on Kickstarter. Here's the details. The goal is to keep combat flowing by not flipping through the monster manual. Every card is tarot-sized, illustrated by a human, and follows the same format. There are 6 decks, each with 25 monster cards, and more cards may be added to each deck as the campaign unlocks stretch goals. As of recording, the Deck of Holding is fully funded with a couple weeks left to go. Before we start flipping through this preview copy of Deck 1, please note this is a prototype, and the publisher told me this box printed darker than expected, so the art will be much clearer on the final version. And if you're interested in that final version, using my referral link down in the description will earn me a commission from the publisher. The back of the box has our table of contents, the names of all 25 monsters included in Deck 1, starting with the Ancient Red Dragon and mostly classics like the Gelatinous Cube and the Rust Monster, but a couple original monsters like the Nyargath and the Treasure Golem. Before we look at how they magically fit a D&D 5e Ancient Red Dragon stat block on a single card, one problem I have with this list and the overall contents of this deck, it is a random assortment of monsters. Even though these monsters are in alphabetical order, there are 5 more decks, and it's not practical for a GM to remember that the Rust Monster is in Deck 1, meaning these decks are not well suited to random encounters when you have to quickly find a monster among the entire set. But yes, they are perfect for set piece encounters when you plan what cards you'll need, just like you would with miniatures, and they save you time, either flipping between monsters in the book or from writing down your own shorthand notes for every monster you need. Also, the cards create a new option to assemble your own deck of monsters like a random table that you can draw from, or perhaps have a player draw from, so the random encounter with an Ancient Red Dragon is their fault. Now, the cards themselves feel decent quality to me, but here are the specs on screen for our playing card aficionados. And this diagram really lays out every part of the front side of the card. There are the stats and modifiers at the top, name and challenge rating in the first line under the art, then monster size, type, subtype, and alignment next to XP and proficiency bonus, and they introduce icons for HP, AC, initiative modifier, and different movement speeds. Finally, the artist's name is at the bottom. Here's a breakdown of each icon, and I appreciate that they stuck to acronyms for things like CR, XP, and proficiency, because it's common for designers to use so many icons that they merely replace one form of jargon with another, but I think this strikes the right balance. And here's the rest of an Ancient Red Dragon on only one tarot-sized card. Saving throws, skills, immunities, senses, and languages, then its passive traits, followed by all 5 of its actions and its 3 legendary actions. The font size of the body text does seem a little small and faint to my eye, especially when we look at the next card, Animated Armor, and see that they do not increase the font size at all when there is plenty of space to spare, but that feat of capturing this whole dragon stat block is impressive, even surprising because they kept most of the original text. Multi-attack. The dragon makes 3 rend attacks. It can replace 1 attack with a use of spellcasting to cast Scorching Ray level 3 version. Is verbatim from the stat block, when they could have cut the words in half with something like multi-attack, 3 rend or 2 rend with 1 spellcasting, Scorching Ray level 3. However, and I'm going to start flipping through the cards now so you can see all the art, that kind of redesign by reduction is exactly what I described for using icons. It is a slippery slope from intending to make something clearer to accidentally making something more confusing. And personally, I've learned that when designing materials for one specific game system, it's often best to stay close to that game's design conventions. That is what the reader expects, so it's just usually the best way to go. Flipping through the second half of the deck, we'll really just admire the art styles here. There are, I think, 3 artists named. This piece, for example, from Dean Spencer, very popular, very common. fantasy stock art artists, and a number of pieces in this more, I wouldn't say cartoonish style, but with this thicker outline that lends it a different style than what you normally see in 5e art anyway. And it's curious, for some monsters like this iron golem wielding a rusted sword, is that actually an iron golem piece made by Dean Spencer, or was that some similar enough piece of fantasy artwork that the publisher of these cards decided to use? Now, here's an original piece surely for one of these original monsters, the Nyargath with this huge brain hanging off its back. And maybe I should point out, this is by Rick Hershey. Our last few cards here, the Ochre Jelly, a raven, noting that there are still some animals among these 150 total monsters among the decks. And that could be another important note. It's not clear to me which ones of the 300 or so total monsters in the SRD were left out of this 150 total card deck, especially considering some were replaced by original monsters. In any case, there's our final card that we caught a glimpse of earlier. And that's all 25 monsters from the Deck of Holding Deck 1. Please let me know what you think, and if you do pick up one or more of these 6 total decks, please use my link down below to support the channel. Thanks to everyone who commented on the last CrowdQuest video liking this style of hands-on review. It's honestly kind of difficult to get a physical sample for Kickstarter projects, but since it's working, maybe it'll catch on, and here's a link to the last video on your screen if you missed it. Thanks, and keep building.